Welcome to Audio Path, where we take a real look at making a living in music.
Ever wonder what it's like to make a living in music outside of the big industry hubs? We're here to pull back the curtain with raw, unfiltered conversations about the ups, downs, and everything in between.
Join us, John Kimbrough,
And Trent Harrison,
as we share real-world insights, experiences, and stories from behind the scenes in the music industry. Whether you're an artist, audio nerd, or you just love music, we've got something for you.
this is Audio Path, where the hustle is real and the passion runs deep.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Audio Path podcast.
Audio Path, here we are.
That's right. I'm John. This is Trent.
Hey.
If you're just joining us for the first time, welcome. We are so excited you're here. This has been a really fun experience for us, continues to be, and we hope that you're learning something, that you're feeling like you can, take away information, but more than that, just like some community and things like that. Trent, what are we talking about today?
So we're talking about kind of a two-parted topic. It's how to get started in the studio and on the stage.
Yes.
Right. So, what does that really mean? Well, okay, how to get your studio journey or career off the ground and get it going, and then same thing on the stage. What does maybe your first gig or series of gigs look like, and how do they grow into a steady thing, right?
Yep.
So I think that's what we're going to cover, and we're going to do that in a kind of a combination way, like our story, our experiences in both of those realms, and then maybe some other options and pathways that we've also seen along the way.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
So let's do that then. So Trent, tell me a little bit of your story.
Sure.
I know we've covered some of this already, but let's just start from the beginning of how you wound up being an audio engineer.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So I would say that like most or like a lot of audio engineers out there, they started out as musicians, as players. Whether it's, whatever instrument it is, that's probably where your interest was piqued at a certain point. And so that's the case for me. I started out playing the bass and was playing in bands in high school and through college. And that was kind of the foundation in music that led me towards wanting to pursue the technical side of things and become an audio engineer. And so that's kind of a good segue into, why don't we talk about the stage portion of this first, and I'll give you my take on it, and then we can progress into the studio, because that's how it came for me. I started out as a player, hit the stage after, so many years. Eventually, there was education in there. I can touch on that briefly. Then eventually hit the studio, and then was doing both simultaneously, and then now predominantly spend more time in the studio than playing on stage at this point. I do run sound on the other side of the stage, so still there at the stage, but just on a different side now, most of the time. So, like I said, got started. I think I want to say my first time playing in front of people was, I think, a battle of the bands at the local community center in my hometown.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was it. And this was in sophomore year, I think, of high school. The band I was in had been playing for a while. We felt like we had mustered up enough to give this thing a go. And we entered that competition. And I think we did it twice. One year we won. And the other year, I think we came in second place. I can't remember which one happened first.
Sweet.
Probably the second one was the victory, and the first one was the runner-up. That would make sense, but I can't quite remember. That was my first experience playing in front of an audience. And then not long after that, even could have been in between that, we landed our first real gig at the garage in Winston-Salem.
Cool.
was the name of the venue. It's a super cool place. It's RIP, no longer still there.
No longer there, huh?
No,
Mm.
but ran for many, many years. I think it closed only recently. May have been through the COVID times. But anyway, it was a great place. They had a lot of great acts there. A lot of well-known national acts would come through. But they gave their start to a lot of younger bands as well. And so then I guess if we try to dissect these things a little bit, like what was that like? What would someone expect, I guess, right? So with the Battle of the Bands community show, I think we played 2 songs or something like that.
Okay.
So it was not like a real gig where you'd obviously be responsible for at least 30 minutes, I would say. Sometimes it varies, but let's say if you're opening act, you're going to play for 30, 45 minutes probably. We played a couple songs. So it was a short experience. So I'm going to just brush over that quickly and go straight to the real gig. We were opening up for another local band who was more well-known, who had played there several times and had played in other venues around town. We showed up at the venue, I want to say 3 or 4 hours before the gig happens.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we all had our gear. At that time, I think we tried to ride together as much as we can, but there was no band van or anything like that. So had to take multiple cars to get all the equipment there.
Mm-hmm.
Got everything set up. The headlining band sound checked first and their gear backlined. And so if you'll hear that term a lot, backline is basically what means that the equipment that is being used later in the event is set and ready behind or in the back of the line before the opening act's equipment, or behind it, I guess. And so that was happening. We were getting our stuff kind of side stage and ready to go. And then as soon as they finished their sound check, we went up there, of course, brought all of our gear, set up our thing, and got to do a little bit of a sound check ourselves. And that was just a really cool experience. All in all, I mean, that was like, it was an adrenaline rush when the show happened. It was super cool that we were playing on a real stage, in front of a real audience. And it's a great feeling. Yeah,
it is.
So that's kind of my foray into it, I would say. And then it continued on from there. The band, we stayed together for a number of years and played several gigs, many gigs across the kind of southeast area, mostly centered in the Triangle and in Charlotte area, southeast of, North Carolina, Virginia, a little bit, South Carolina, but it was mostly centered around North Carolina. And let's see, it morphed a little bit, like, of course, as a band, and the music got tighter and tighter as things went on, and we would start to think about our show performance and like how we were presenting ourselves a little bit better. Eventually, I mean, some bands do this, some bands don't. You think about what you're wearing. Is there a band uniform? Some bands will dress very similarly. Some maybe just kind of do their own thing, but they do have some requirements. Like, I know it's very common. Not a great day for me to be saying about this, but like long pants, right?
Sure.
You wear jeans or slacks or something like that, and not shorts. It's like trying to be a little bit more professional, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, those things can kind of progress over time, and you'll pick up on, how the band dynamic will morph into that over time, for sure.
Nice.
So should we, before I get into the studio, let's talk about your experience, John. Why don't we stick on the stage for a little bit, and then we'll jump to studio, and then we can both talk
sounds
about
good.
that.
I'm not sure that I can necessarily like fit mine into studio or stage, but I'll just kind of give you some of the snippets along the way.
That'll work.
So I can't really remember the first time that I performed as a musician.
Yeah.
Because I come from a family. All of my brothers are musicians. It's just like kind of what we do and what we did. My grandparents were like music missionaries in Brazil, and music is just like part of my family.
Yeah.
So it must have been, I mean, I started taking piano when I was like 4, so it was probably somewhere around there that I, performed for the first time, although it may have been before that, like singing in a church choir or something, who knows.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of always done that. The weird thing for me, though, is that I have like a ton of classical musician training and experience. And so the technical side of things was always kind of it was a passion project for me. And I was always super interested in that side of things. I literally didn't know until much later in life that you can actually combine those two things and you can do both at the same time. So, I'm studying music from a very young age. We've already covered some of that in a previous podcast. Learning trumpet, learning piano, several other instruments, learning voice and all of that. But along the way, here are just a few snippets of, looking back on it, I totally was into audio engineering without knowing it. Like my parents got me this little karaoke machine like for Christmas one year, and it was, one of these old school things, and it played like, you had to buy the CDs with the actual lyrics on it or whatever, and it had a little screen that was like, I don't know, like the size of an iPhone now probably.
Nice.
And anyway, and it was one of the first pieces of like music equipment that I ever owned. And I took that thing literally like I took a screwdriver to it, was taking it apart, checking out the guts, like rewired it, wired a bunch of like extra speakers out all over my room. I'd throw these little like dance parties is what I called them, like raves basically in my bedroom. But I literally did not make the connection to like, oh, this is also music.
Right.
I literally didn't have that connection. So that's just one example. There are lots of other ones where I was just a nerd, just a tech guy, building my own computers and stuff.
Nice.
All of that. And then along the way, like the church that I went to it turned into a mega church very quickly. I think we've talked about that in previous podcasts, but it was a great learning field for just being exposed to high level audio gear. And even though I literally never touched anything at church, I always remember watching the people who were working the consoles and stuff and being like fascinated.
Yeah.
And trying to listen for, okay, they're turning that knob. What is that doing? Oh, I didn't even have the terminology back then, but I'd be like, oh, that they're putting a little bit of like brightness or presence into that vocal. Like I can hear it more clearly now. That's what that knob does.
Right.
So literally just like watching from afar and kind of like, I guess I would call it training my ear by rote, sort of.
Right.
Yeah, just like
much.
listening and watching and seeing what the correlation is. So, and then in college, I joined a band called Seed Company, and we were just kind of like a Christian jam band pretty much, and we had a lot of fun, and we actually did like 2 tours, and it was crazy. But we had someone who was like, well, let me back up. As I was kind of like working at different churches, like volunteering or like on staff as like a paid worship leader, there was almost never anybody who was technical. So over the course of time, I just started learning so that I could basically try to do the impossible, which is like mix and play at the same time.
Very hard.
Very difficult to do. Do not recommend.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have a choice.
Right.
And so what I became pretty good at is actually, this was like right when digital consoles were first becoming a thing. The first digital console I ever worked on was this old PreSonus. They're like the worst.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
they're just, for so many reasons, those original PreSonus
I had one.
digital console,
Oh, yeah.
dude,
Totally.
like they're pretty bad. But they were like, oh, you can save stuff? What? That was a big deal.
There were some benefits.
And then the X32 came out.
Yep.
And I was working at a church that installed one of those. And so I really started learning, like, I learned how to do this thing, which is kind of weird, but basically like preset an entire show so that a volunteer can come in, and even if they don't really know what they're doing, they can just like run scenes.
Yeah.
So pre-programming,
Right.
Even though it wasn't even really called that, and I didn't know that's what I was doing. I just was like coming up with this process to get people kind of like closer. I didn't know everything back then. Like, looking back on it, I made some huge mistakes, did some things I probably shouldn't have done in all of that, didn't really know even how to EQ or like gain structure or like the basics. Had no idea what a gate was or compression.
Yeah.
I just whatever. Just was making it happen.
Yeah.
But the more that for me, the learning the art of engineering was a direct result of me just wanting to be a better musician.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to sound good. I wanted to make people sound the best that they could. And literally all of my like learning and all of my understanding came from that simple passion and desire to want it to sound right. That's literally why I kept learning, kept pushing through.
That's right.
And, so it's hard for me to kind of like separate them because they kind of just happen at the same time. Like as my musicality grew and my musicianship, my technical ability grew too, because it's like this is the next level and I have to match this with engineering.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
So anyway, that's kind of just a snippet of how it happened for me.
No, that's really cool. I mean, that's definitely a good insight and a good path that someone could take. I feel like mine is slightly different. I feel like my musicality or my skills as a player started early and grew before I got into the technical thing, and then it was like, this is gonna need to try to catch up.
Right.
Which I feel like is pretty common.
Yeah.
Like I feel like yours is a little bit of a unique case. I mean, in this day and age, it may happen more like that.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually they would try to catch up with each other, and then now it's far surpassed the one for the other.
Sure. Sure.
So, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's almost as if there are multiple paths.
That's right. One might
common
say.
theme here. Common theme.
Mm-hmm,
So,
mm-hmm,
well, cool.
right.
Trent, let me ask you a few questions just kind of about your path. And then what I'd love to do is just kind of give a few examples of like, hey, you're coming to this new, you don't even know really where to start. I would love to give people just kind of an example path.
Yes.
Even though we cannot be clear enough, there are so many different ways to approach this and get into this world. But there are some things that I think are staples.
Yes.
Things that you do need to do. And we can kind of give some of those. But quick question about yours. So were you doing some of this like playing but also engineering at the same time kind of deal?
Yeah.
Okay, because I saw you laugh at that. So
yeah.
Talk to me about your experience with that.
Yeah. So I think it goes. All right. So let me rewind a little bit here. So I kind of where I left off with the band playing around, the state and so on and so forth, and how the band progressed and the musicality got, a little bit better. The technical side started to creep in around that time. And so that's whenever I started to make a shift or wearing multiple hats there to try to enhance the band's sound and all that. So what happened first, honestly, was not stage. I wasn't trying to do the live sound. We were, I guess, fortunate enough that we were playing in places where they had someone running it. But we, of course, did have, we had rehearsal and we had to have something there. So that did lead into it at some point.
Right.
And then eventually would take over out in the real world. But it started on the studio side of things. So what eventually happened was, we had written, 5 or 6 songs. We're like, we need to get this out there. We need to have CDs for people. Let's, we got to record it. And this goes back to probably mentioned in earlier episodes, finally deciding that we were going to record 4 of the songs that we had that we felt like were ready. And we had this like Tascam 4-track straight to CD recorder machine. And it had, it had effects. It had like compression, EQ, and all that stuff kind of built in. It was a digital machine. The biggest draw for us was it went straight to CD. We didn't have a lot of money to be able to, get disc makers or one of the other companies to reproduce it. We saw that. We're like, we can burn these and then make our own DIY CDs and hand them out. Yes. Straight DIY bootstrapping.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Back in high school. So that's what happened. We had some microphones. I want to say at the time we had a 58, Shure 58. We had a 57. and we had a drum, a kit, like a full kit of drum mics. I don't really remember the brand. They might have been Shure's as well. And with that, we were going to try to make it all happen.
More has been done with less.
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. Very, very true. And so I just remember with, sitting down before rehearsal or our first recording session and in our rehearsal space with the guitar player and just going through this machine to try to figure out like, okay, well, we can record this track on this one, but then we've got 4 more, but we've got 6 or 7 like things we want to do. What can we separate? And you just try to figure out how to layer it on.
How to make
right?
it work.
Exactly, how to make it work on a small little thing. Way different than you have now, where you just open it up and you have hundreds of tracks, and it is what it is.
However many you want.
That's right. And so that's kind of how it got started. We recorded it all on that machine, and then the mixing also took place on that machine. You could play it back and add the EQ compression and reverb or whatever. Didn't know anything about EQ or compression. Only knew that what reverb sounded like, but didn't know the parameters. Like we knew which ones, types like Hall, Spring, Plate. Like we knew kind of which ones we liked, but we didn't really know what was going on. You just kind of trial and error, I guess, is the best way to look at it, right? Yeah. So that's what kind of got me into like that phase of my like musical journey. Really set the stage and like sent me down the path or a trajectory towards wanting to know more about that, wanting to make it sound like the records I was, playing day in and day out, and how to get that with my own music. And then eventually it led to me wanting to do that for a career for other people's music and basically wanting to have a recording studio. And that's kind of what that moment or that time period is what got me headed in that direction. Then on the other side, on the stage side, with the band, we started to be like, okay, now we will hopefully or will want to play some shows where we may have to provide our own sound. And then so, you start looking at like, try to get some speakers. We got some monitors. We got some speakers. We got a little board. We were trying to do our own sound. Not an easy thing.
Oh, it's tough.
Especially back in that day. I mean, I do remember eventually getting a wireless situation so that I could stand out front and basically say, this is what it sounds like, guys. We need to change this.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you go back and forth. That was before the iPad, so you couldn't just stand out there and actually make the change. You had to go back to the board, make the change, go back out and listen to see if it was right. And then go back and forth and back and forth.
Exactly.
And back and forth.
Which I think is actually a skill in and of itself. And I've noticed sometimes, this is just a personal anecdote, I've noticed sometimes that like younger people who haven't had to learn how to do that, they're a little bit like frozen when they like come up with a console that maybe doesn't have wireless interface, and they like don't know what to do. And it's like, walk around, memorize what you hear, go make a change and go back and like, it's truly a skill. It's a skill in and of itself. So
it is.
Mad respect to you for having done that.
Yeah. It is a skill. And the cool thing about it, or one of the cool things about the school that I went to, Guilford Tech for audio engineering, was they made us learn. Like this was in 2006, okay, and I went there from 2006 to the early, like I think I graduated in like December of 08, basically 09, beginning of 09, and but at that point, like digital was on the horizon for sure. It was already integrated pretty well, but it was lagging behind analog as far as quality was going. I think they were on like version 6 or 7 of Pro Tools.
Yeah.
That was starting to get the track count up to be able to keep up with like, a 64 channel board or a 128 channel. So that was starting to get in there too, but the interfaces were still not quite there. There were some issues. that I do remember, but they were teaching us that, but they were teaching us analog also
Mm-hmm.
first
Yes.
to learn signal flow,
Right.
which is really what it all comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were learning on the analog board, both in a studio environment and at the stage environment.
Yeah.
We had an auditorium, and some of the students would go up and play, and they would teach a group of them how to run sound.
Mm-hmm.
In the auditorium, it was a digital console right beside the analog console. It was the Yamaha M7, which is a pretty sweet console.
Yeah, I mixed on one of those a few weeks ago, actually.
Yeah, see,
Yep.
there you go. They're still out there.
They are. They're in the wild.
Mm-hmm. And so that was complicated, especially at that time. I mean, we were of course young and just getting started, and it is not an easy console to just jump into. But right beside it, they had a Soundcraft Ghost, and it was the analog console.
Yep.
And basically, we would learn how to do it on the analog in the analog world, which is a lot more surface-faced, laid out. You know, you basically start at the top and work your way down.
Yep.
You know, from your input to your gain and it could go in multiple orders. EQ, compression, that you could flip those, and then there's buses and auxiliaries, and could be some effects there that could be in a different place. They're all different, but they repeat each channel down the line. And so we would learn all of the sections. And I remember in the classroom, they would make us draw out the signal flow on a board. And we would use all the little symbols for pots and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
And how the connections would break or be broken or redirected. And you draw it all out so that you can commit it to memory. So when you get to a new board, if you just go back to remembering your signal flow, you'll figure it out if you have a problem, right?
Yep.
Now, the digital realm of that was a little tougher because things would be on layers, so you couldn't actually see something, or you couldn't see everything at the same time. You would have to scroll or pull up a different layer. It would pull up the monitor mixers. The faders would move to the monitors, or it would change back to the main mix. Like, it created a level of complexity to it.
Yeah.
But had a lot of great features like you were talking about earlier. Of course, it could save and do all these great things like that. So that was kind of the moment where, you know, things started to intertwine a little bit, right? I was learning about the inner workings of the consoles and the engineering behind it. I was playing in a band at the same time through that early college period. I had the first experience with my younger band, recording ourselves on the little recorder, and was now learning how to do it in Pro Tools in the digital realm with the computer and interfaces and such and so forth. And that they would go back and forth hand in hand. Eventually, I think we ended up going to a local studio in Winston-Salem to record our first real record with that band. I was very, I just knew I couldn't do it myself. We didn't have enough equipment, and we wanted some expertise. And so we went and did that. That was a great experience. Very glad that I didn't just try to spearhead and be all, like, nah, I'm studying this, I can do this type of thing. Because going there as a musician on that side of the stage and watching the engineer record our record, I learned a lot from that experience. And he was super cool. He knew I was in school for it, and we, would chat a little bit, and I, try not to distract him, but would ask him some questions during some downtime, and it was a great learning experience.
Yeah.
And so they basically just kind of wove in and out with the playing and the technical learning and trying to do, both at the same time. And that was kind of the path that I took. It started early on, but ended up going to school for it, and I knew that was what I wanted to do, and it just grew and grew from there.
Yeah.
But there's lots of different ways that you can do it. John, why
Yep.
don't you tell me about what you talked about the stage side of things.
Mhm.
Tell me a little bit about what you remember as like your early studio experiences.
For sure, for sure. Very early studio experience would have been, I had this old laptop that a family friend gave me because they knew I was like into electronics and computers and stuff. It was like it was like a 1997 laptop. Like, I mean, this thing was a brick. It was huge.
Yeah.
And I like upgraded it to run Windows 2000, Windows XP. And
Yeah.
and I thought it was just like the bee's knees. I thought it was sweet. I mean, it couldn't do a lot, like, but what I could do was I downloaded like the very first version of Audacity.
Mm.
And, because I had heard from a friend, that I was in school with back then, like, hey, there's this super cool program, like, check it out. I think he actually gave it to me on a CD, like a CD-ROM
All right.
to like install. Yeah. And so I installed it, and like I didn't have microphones or anything. I literally, aside from like my sweet karaoke machine.
Oh yeah.
And so I had no idea really what I was doing back then. I tried like several different ways of like using that as like an interface essentially, and it was just a nightmare. I actually wound up destroying that computer in the process of like playing around with stuff.
Oh wow.
But I remember it had a little microphone built into it, so I, learned like recording stuff a little bit, but all of that was like super rudimentary. Where I really started like honing my skills as a studio engineer was when COVID happened. I mean, really, that's when I started getting super serious about it.
Yeah. Things switched more from, because you traditionally or historically done a lot of live sound work.
Right.
So that's when you kind of like leaned harder.
Because all of a sudden, man, there were no jobs.
There were no live sound gigs. Yeah.
There were none of them.
Yeah.
And working in church at the time too, like churches shut their doors as well. And so, I was the worship pastor at a church here in town, and all of a sudden, I had the church staff coming to me and saying, well, we need you to record music because we're going online. And the church I worked at, we went online for like 2 years straight.
Yeah.
I mean, like a long time.
Right.
So basically, in the course of 2 years, I basically took all of this time and energy and effort that I had been like putting into doing that thing where it's like my music grows, my live engineering grows. And I realized, there's a third one in the middle here, and I'm way down here.
Right.
Way down here on this. Now, I had some of the skills already.
There's overlap.
There is overlap, fortunately. So I wasn't quite here. I was probably like here.
Right.
But I literally just took that time, and because I had to, for my work and to continue working, in music and in audio engineering, like I literally had to just learn very quickly how to be a studio engineer.
I bet. Yeah.
And, that's when I started like hunting down some certifications and hunting down people that, I could be in the room with who could teach me things. And we talked about that, in previous episodes. And, I grew massively very quickly because it was the only thing I was focused on.
The crash course into it, right?
Yeah, literally, I was like, I have to do this, and I love it.
Yeah.
And I'm super interested in it. I've just never, it was weird. It's like all of a sudden I don't have any time because I'm super busy doing this, but it's also exactly what I want to be learning and focusing on.
That's great. Yeah.
So, which brings us to, let's do this.
Okay.
Why don't we give people I kind of have in my mind like a list of things that I think are essential if you're going to be doing audio engineering. Yeah. And I would consider this kind of like the meat maybe of this episode.
Yeah, I think we've been kind of basically just building up to this, giving a little backstory to lead, taking the past, but they're going to converge.
They will converge.
Yeah,
yep.
This is actually the bigger path that we're talking about here.
So larger scale here.
Yeah.
Number one, you can't be an audio engineer if you don't have a good ear.
Yeah.
Just step one out the gate.
Right. Now, what does that mean, John? What does having a good ear mean?
Okay. Yeah, that's
it's kind of multifaceted, right?
It is. There are two ears.
Yeah.
Okay, not literally, but I guess maybe literally too. Okay, there are two ears. One of them is a musical ear, and if you're a musician, an aspiring musician or a professional musician, you have to spend time training your ear. You need to know intervals. You need to know the distance between notes. Essentially, is what an interval is. You need to know by ear. I firmly believe this. You need to know like, hey, that's a major 7 chord or whatever. Like when you hear it. You need to know what scales sound like, and modes and things. So that's like that's one side of ear training, which is super important. And if you like go to school for music, they're going to spend a lot of time there. You're going to have ear training classes that you have to go through and all that kind of stuff. That can inform the other ear, but it's very different.
Right.
The other ear is the engineering ear.
Right.
You're listening for different things. You need to know the frequency spectrum. Like you need to know within a very close range, like, hey, there is 3.5K sticking out of this trumpet.
Right.
Or whatever.
And what that means is the frequency spectrum runs from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. Well, it technically runs farther than that, but that's what the human ear can actually hear,
right?
What we can perceive.
Yeah.
There are higher frequencies. We can't really hear them. They drop off at that like 20,000 cliff. But other like dogs can hear it. Other animals can hear things like that. But there's not really any musicality. Well, of course, we wouldn't experience it if there was. Beyond that, and actually an interesting fact is when you're young, when you start out, you have the full range. And then as you get older, you start to lose some of that range. Protect your hearing. It's very important. I mean, I'm guilty of it just like a lot of people are. But in the younger days as a teenager, blasting music in my headphones and blasting it in the car.
Yeah.
Definitely on stage. That was probably the loudest. You know, I'm back there probably beside the drummer and he's wailing and I'm just getting slammed. It's a lot of fun.
Sure.
And that's how it goes that way. But if you want to do this as a career, be conscious of that.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Try not to spend too much time doing that. There are moments where listening loud is important to do as an audio engineer, but you should be spending most of your time at a moderate decibel level or a low level.
Yeah. And if you're interested in this, which you should be, protecting your hearing, you know, basically our ears at certain like decibel levels, we can only be exposed like exponentially to certain decibel levels. So like, for example, just, you know, OSHA has like an actual list of like how long you can be exposed to a sound at a certain decibel level. For example, like around 75, you can basically listen to music at 75 decibels all day.
Yep.
And you won't have ear fatigue. And your ears won't be in danger of like having damage. However, if you like go up into the 90s, so like 95, for example, this is all off my memory, so this could be wrong, but it's something like you have an hour and a half at 95.
Yeah.
At 96, it like goes down to like an hour. 97 is 30 minutes.
Yeah.
98. And I mean, like by the time you hit 100, you can really only be exposed to 100 decibels for like several minutes at a time.
Before it starts to do potentially permanent damage. Yeah.
So these are the only two ears you have. Protect them. Don't be stupid with them. It's okay to be that person who shows up to a concert with earplugs.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever people may make you feel like being a dork or whatever, don't worry about that.
It's worth it.
It's well worth it.
Yeah.
Concert's a good example because it is historically, you know, known that they're going to be loud. And, you know, engineers are pushing upwards of 100 dB, definitely in the 95, sometimes closer to 110.
Yep.
As far as you can go, and they're doing it for other reasons. They're not trying to hurt anyone. They want the concert to be impactful and hit hard. And there is this common perception that louder is better.
Yeah.
Not always true, but there is some merit to that because it does feel good whenever, you know, you can feel it and hear it.
And sometimes, you know, as a live engineer myself, like depending on what I'm mixing and who I'm mixing for, I am told how loud to mix it.
Right. Yeah, you have to hit a certain range.
I mean, when I mix like hip hop festivals, I am told 108.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
so
loud.
I mix at 108.
Yeah.
And I hate it. But you know, you do what you got to do.
You wear your earplugs.
I literally wear earplugs when I mix those. But anyway, that's a sidetrack.
It is.
All that to say, train your ears. There are some ways to do this. The best way to do it is just to play. Play around. Pull some tracks up in a DAW. Grab an EQ. Sweep around. Like notice what high mids sound like. Notice what low mids sound like in a bunch of different instruments. So yeah, you need to know what these instruments are supposed to sound like. And the
Right.
best way to do that is just to kind of analyze what you're listening to and find examples. I mean, it's never been a better time to train your ear, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so many great resources online. Like you can even find, like track splits of your favorite songs, like on YouTube a lot of the time. I mean, you can train your ear in a ton of different ways. I will tell you the secret sauce for me
Okay.
that has gotten my ear crazy good is dedicating time to it.
Yeah.
I spend 30 minutes of every morning training my ear.
Nice. Yeah.
And I've done that for about 5 years now.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. In both realms. So I actually have a tool that I use, and I'll tell you what they are in a second. I have a tool that I use for training my musical ear, but I also have another tool that I use for training my audio engineering ear. And we've really just been talking about the frequency spectrum.
Right.
But great engineers also need to like be able to hear compression and hear different ratios of compression, attack times, release times, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
You need to be able to hear like, different types of reverbs. You need to be able to discern what's a plate reverb, spring reverb, hall, chamber, anything like that.
What's the decay time?
What's the decay time?
Right.
Yep.
Is there pre-delay?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. You don't have to be able to say like that is a 7.29 second decay time. But you need to be like, that's a long decay time that I'm hearing, and that's a spring reverb.
Right. And then what constitutes long? Like what is long? Is long 10 seconds? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But is long 5 seconds? I would say so too.
I would say so. Yep.
Yeah. What is short? 1, 1.2, 1.3, all the way up to maybe 2. And then you start to get into medium. 2 is maybe anywhere from, or medium is anywhere from 2 to 5. And then you get long, right? So you need to know those types of things.
Yep. Exactly.
It'll speed up your process.
Big time.
The longer you get into this, the more, like, this is just a little bit of a pro tip, because I wish I would have thought about more of this earlier on. I mean, you never know. The more you can find out about ways to speed up your workflow and your process, the better off you're going to be.
Yep.
And the longer you do this, the more you're going to be looking for those type of things.
Yes.
Because, I mean, not only, in the studio and potentially at the stage time could equate to money, but it could also equate to being able to get to the next thing you have to do. Like, you need to keep a constant thing flowing, and the quicker you can do something that's, not necessarily don't rush the creative parts, but the quicker you can do some of the more technical things, the way better off you're going to be.
Yeah, because it frees you up to be more creative.
Exactly.
So, okay, here are the 2 tools that I would recommend if you're interested in doing this. And there is no silver bullet. I can tell you these things, but it only is going to make a difference, listener, if you actually take time out of your day and do these consistently, not just like one-off. Rick Beato's ear training is phenomenal.
Nice.
Really, really good. And it teaches you all of those things I was talking about with the musical ear. He's super good at teaching you how to hear intervals, teaching you how to hear chords and chord progressions and all of it. I mean, it's a really great tool, and it's usually on sale. It's not even that expensive. For training your engineering ear, the very best tool that I've found is Sound Gym. Sound Gym. It's a bunch of these different games that basically, like, over the course of time will teach you how to hear things. And you will suck at it at first. And that's okay.
That's okay.
Like, it's okay. Yeah. You have to recognize how much you don't know before you can start working on knowing things.
Filling those up, yeah.
Right. So anyway, yeah, Sound Gym is a phenomenal tool. I was turned on to it by the mastering.com course that I went through, the certification course. And anyway, everybody, like, it's a requirement actually for that school, is literally like get a Sound Gym. So it's a subscription. So get a Sound Gym subscription and just start training your ear up. You can even set it to like learn what you're bad at, and then it will start pushing you things that you are not good at.
Yeah.
Which is frustrating, but it gets you better at those things.
That's the goal.
So even like hearing distortion, and it like you started off and it's like, oh, this is easy because, it's kind of like Duolingo for your ears.
Yeah.
So it's literally just like, oh, well, we're starting off and this is really easy. I can totally hear the difference between this like super distorted, master track and this like non-distorted one. But over the course of time, it's like, oh, I'll have to listen hard for this and like really know what I'm hearing. And like they even have delay times in there. So like,
Nice.
I mean, when you get to a higher level, and there's like different levels of it. There's like, bronze ears, golden ears, platinum ears, like diamond ears or whatever.
Yeah.
When you're at diamond ears,
You're good.
the stuff that they're throwing at you is like, is this a 12 millisecond delay or a 15 millisecond delay?
Yeah.
And you're just like, this is tough.
Yeah, very tough to
This
know.
is tough,
Yeah.
man.
Let me get my stopwatch out.
Like literally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, that may sound kind of crazy, and it kind of is, but it makes you such a good engineer when your ears are just like that.
Yeah.
Because when you're not having to like spend a ton of time like sweeping frequencies and trying to find exactly what you're hearing, and you can just like,
Yep.
that's what makes you quick,
Yep.
which is what makes you good.
Exactly. And that's what makes you even more hireable.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So that's just, I mean, like if there's one takeaway, that's the big one is like you have to know the craft.
Yeah.
And knowing the craft is actually just having a really, really good ear. So I would say like, and just to move kind of quickly through the rest of mine, because we're low on time here, have a good ear. So train that thing up and don't stop training it up. Just be consistent with it. Number 2, know your gear.
Yeah.
So like no matter what your gear is, it doesn't matter if you have, like a little Tascam recorder,
Right.
or if you, have like a Digico SD9, which like if you have one, that's crazy. But
Yeah.
like, let's just say you do.
Probably know how to use
You
it, or
probably know
you
how to
ought
use
to
it.
if
Yeah.
you do. Yeah.
Like know everything about it, like learn it, pull the manual. That's another thing that I do. I read a manual a week for something.
Mhm.
Like it's just part of my discipline
Yep.
of being an audio engineer. I love to read through manuals. So learn your stuff is really number 2. Number 3 really is, and we've said this before, but I really can't overemphasize it. To be an engineer means to be just a nice person.
Yep.
Be a good hang.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you know a lot, who really cares?
Yeah.
Just show up, do the best job that you can do
Mm-hmm.
for whoever you're working with or working for. Be interested, like let them know that you're interested in them. You're interested in them succeeding, them getting a good recording, them having a great show, whatever it is. Think in terms of hospitality.
Yeah.
If you're mixing outdoors and it's the middle of summertime and the band is up there and they're just like sweating, go find them some water.
Right. Yeah. It's not below you to help someone out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like stay humble about it. Right?
Exactly. Put yourself in their position and just think about like, if I was doing this right now, what would be helpful for me?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Even from a mixing perspective, like, if I'm playing bass on stage right now, what do I need to hear more of? Oh, I'm standing by a drum kit. I probably don't need a ton of drums in my monitor.
Right. But I might want some vocals.
Yes.
I might want some guitar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are kind of my big 3. Like,
Those are good. Yeah.
just a quick recap: train your ear, know your gear, be a good hang.
Absolutely.
Those are the big 3.
I agree with all of that. I've got a couple myself that I want to add
Yes.
that I think can apply to both, but some are a little more studio specific. All of the things that John has said also apply. Like you need to continue to learn about your recording. You need to learn about mixing, editing, mastering. Learn about all of those things as much as you possibly can by do your own research. Go out there, find tutorial videos, find how-tos, learn from someone in person if that's an option for you. That can be the best.
Yes.
If you want to go the education route, we had an episode about this several back, and we talk about the pros and cons of going to school versus just jumping right in. That, if that's for you, then go that route. The one thing to get started in the studio, things that I did, I found a group that I could record for free.
That's great.
And that was huge to get me started. I needed practice, and I wasn't going to give them an amazing product right out the gate. I just learned it, basically. But if you can you can talk to them. What happened in my situation was I was out at a show, and one of the bands that was opening for the band that I was going to see was young and was just getting started. I feel like we were this in similar age,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought they were great. And so I went up to them after the show. I was like, "You guys are awesome." And can you tell me a little bit more about how you got started? How long y'all been playing together? Started to build a little rapport with them because I was genuinely interested in their music. And then come to find out that they had been together for about a year or so. And so that kind of tipped me off that maybe they don't have any. I didn't see any merch, so I didn't think they had any recordings. And so I was like, "Hey, I just started the studio. I'm trying to, build up my portfolio and work with some bands. How would you guys like it if you came in my studio and recorded one song for free?"
Yeah.
And they were like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then I think we had a series of phone calls after that, and they asked if they could do 2 songs and that they would be willing to maybe pay a little bit. And I was like, "Nope, that's fine. We'll do 2 songs for free. Let's do that."
Yep.
And we'll start off that way. And, if it turns out great, you're happy, I'm happy, then maybe we can do more later on in the future.
Nice.
That worked out really, really great because I learned a whole lot during that time about, recording the band. I had experience in school recording because we had to record a group as part of our capstone project. I'd had experience recording my own band,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a different dynamic. This was like my first project outside of school, outside of my own band, with essentially what was strangers, before, weeks before. And now I'm responsible for their sound and the quality and everything right there, right?
Mm.
But there was no money involved, so if it didn't go great, they wouldn't be too upset. And I wouldn't be too upset, right? So it was a good way to get started.
Nice.
So
That's good.
find someone that you can do like that. And even better, like if you have some friends, great, go for that. But see if you can find someone you don't really know to start to build that experience, because that's what's going to, end up happening time and time again throughout your career is you'll be working with people you don't know.
Yeah. And when you do a good job with someone you don't know, all of a sudden they become a client.
Yes.
And all of a sudden they're telling their friends,
Yes.
"Hey, you want to record? There's a guy, and like he's awesome. And
he did a great job for us. This is what it sounds like potentially, or, go check him out, whichever one comes first."
Yeah.
And it can lead to, not only that first client coming back to do more, but them telling their friends, like you said, and then maybe them coming. Like it just is a snowball effect.
It is.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. But
yeah,
you got to start somewhere and starting just, doing some research and then offering whatever you got for free and just being like, "Hey, I'd love to help you out, random person that I met at an open mic night or whatever."
Right.
It's a great way to get started.
Try that out. Maybe even do it a couple times if you can afford the time. And try if different genres you're interested in or different potential setups, like maybe do some acoustic work, or solo work, whatever that may be.
Mm-hmm.
Do a full band. If you can do a full band, do that. And eventually you'll work into, all right, like I'm producing a decent product. I can probably start charging for that.
Yeah.
And we'll probably get into some later episode about what, you should expect to charge and that whole journey of stuff like that.
Yeah, we did kind of a money episode earlier, but we
didn't get into dollar specifics of like what's the industry standards and what you should be seeing out there.
But that one's coming.
Yeah, that one is coming. I think that one's good to know, and it does change, but it's helpful to know where you're landing. There's a lot of psychology involved in it, and it can be stressful. So we're going to try to help you out with that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think that's a good stopping place.
I think so too. Thanks for everyone for coming by and taking a listen. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave us a comment. We'd love to talk to you. Just add some thoughts. If you have anything you want us to talk about or maybe our experiences with that you can think of, drop it in the comment section. We'd love to hear from you.
Totally. Yeah. So until next time, guys, steady that path.
Steady the path.